Dude, and I left my water outside. Get it together.
Oh. Welcome to Busy Reading Romantasy, a video podcast that discusses books that merge elements of romance and fantasy while occasionally exploring other genres. We get to escape our world and dive deep into themes of good versus evil, power dynamics, and all of the delicious taboo topics. Curiosity and open-mindedness are a must. That being said, this is a podcast for mature audiences only and will contain spoilers. Your mental health matters, so be sure to check the trigger warnings of each book to decide if this is the right episode for you to listen to. Now, let's get into today's episode. Surprise! We wanted to do something a little more fun for kind of the culmination of all this work, all these hours we put into these books. I'm here with Gabby.
Hello.
And yeah, do you want to tell everybody a little bit about what you do in the book world?
Yeah. So I'm Gabby. I post on Instagram just bookish reviews or book reviews, bookish things. I visit bookstores. It's just for fun. So you can find me at Gabby Gets Reading. No spaces, all undercase, lowercase. Yeah. So just post for fun. That's pretty much it. And then read as much as I can.
There you go. Living the life. Living the life. I want to get onto the visiting cute bookstores. I see so many people do that. I'm like,
and
I need to do that.
It fills my soul. Like my friend, she doesn't even read.
Yeah.
And she went with me to one and we left and she was like, I get why you like this so much. I was like, yeah, because they're like indie bookstores, small bookstores you visit. They're so thankful you're even there.
Yeah.
And you just feel that happiness when you leave.
I think I want to do a little mini series of visiting different bookstores and stuff.
Yeah, let's go. It's such a full.
Okay,
I'll do it with you.
Okay. I'll let you know. We'll get some things going. Now that we have an empty hole after finishing this series. Yeah, so we have gone on 4 books. It's been a whole journey. You should know at this point, hopefully you've watched all of our previous ones. We did Pestilence, War, Famine, and now we're on book 4, Death. This is the end. Let me get my notes up before we hop in. Today's a Friday too, and literally everyone has been emailing. All week I had no work, and then everyone today was like, go, go, go.
Why? What about Fridays?
It's not. Yeah, no, I know. That's not normal, so I don't know why it's happened to me this week. All right, so recapping. We did the first 3. Going into Death, what were your thoughts?
I had blank brain. I had no idea what to expect. I knew he had wings, and I knew there was going to be some big reckoning, and there was. Yeah. But other than that, had no idea. I was like, what woman are they going to pick for Death?
Right.
What is going to be special about her? Because she's got to be different than the other 3. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I think it was, again, Miss Laura Thalassa. She killed it. It was great. Yeah.
Also, pause real quick on that. We did make fun little mocktails themed that we've been drinking. We were talking for a while in that episode. We got to chatting. So you can watch that specifically on YouTube. It's just a little bonus video for fun that we walk you through how we make those and the inspiration behind both of them. But yes, I was very excited too, and I was curious how it was going to go. I think my initial thought was we would see a lot more of Famine as well, maybe Famine and Anna, just because he was like, you can ride with me, and they were not with him at all.
Yeah, now that you mention it, we didn't see the women at all, I think.
Not until the very end.
Yeah. Bullshit.
Yeah. That was the main part of this story.
Damn, dude.
Yeah, but we had talked about in our previous episodes about how we kind of get that there is a formula for this book, and how do you make it continue to feel new and exciting and fresh, and not just you're reading the same thing over and over.
Yeah.
So getting into it, as always, we do kind of just a play-by-play, adding our thoughts throughout the whole plot of the story. And then at the very end, we'll kind of zoom out and just chat about kind of what we thought about it overall, especially. So we're now officially 26 years post-Horseman, which, pause, first thought, right off the bat. So in this book, she's riding through various towns and stuff like that. She's meeting with the sheriffs and I was thinking, even for something like Austin, because, I used to live in that area. And I was like, you cannot tell me 26 years after, like, technology and everything goes down that you can still have, like, cohesive working cities. I don't believe humanity would make that happen. There would be crime, outlaw, chaos. I don't know. Maybe I was just like...
You mean just because it was 26 years after technology left?
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
and
I would
she's
agree.
like,
Yeah.
I pictured her like sitting in the like office with the sheriff, and I'm like, this is not how it works. Like, you can't. I don't know that I would believe that there would still be like official titles of position or anything, like any sort of organization, because how do you enforce it?
Yeah, that's soon after technology goes, I think. Yeah, that's why it's less realistic.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, yeah, before technology, there was organization.
It works. That was just a side thought. I think when you read, I always take the mindset of you're signing up for some amount of like kind of that suspended disbelief.
Mm-hmm.
But I found myself being like, wait a minute.
And you're always like thinking about these things way more than I do, I think. Like, I'm just here for the vibes.
I used to be such a vibey reader. I think now that I have the podcast, I try to think more intelligent thoughts rather than just showing up and being like, well, I liked it.
It was great.
And they just kind of occurred to me here and there. But so we get our main character who's trying to buy some apples at the little local market. And it is $1.50 for each apple. And she did not want to pay that. And I don't blame her.
No,
and of course, all the animals go through, and everyone except for her falls dead. Just gone. Done. Which in that case, she now gets all the apples for free, but we're past that.
Didn't even grab her apples.
Death sees her and is like, my notes verbatim, he's like, dude, who are you? How are you still alive? How does this work? And I thought the same. How are you? Everyone fell dead except for you. And we also get, this is it the first book? Okay, maybe that's not true. I was gonna say, is this the first one where we get multiple POVs? Because we get his POV throughout this book.
I think it's the first one well, not really consistently, but like throughout the book, it was.
Yeah, I feel like maybe there was one where we got like one little...
Famine at the end, I think, had his own POV for a little bit, and that gave me hope for Death, because I was like, oh, is it gonna be more dual POV? And it was a little more.
Yeah,
but not really too much.
That's fair. So he has this like urge to just take her and leave. And you're like, oh, okay, that's like right off the bat. She's like, no, absolutely not. And she ends up riding home, and unfortunately she goes in to see her whole family also dead. No one has survived. And that's when we find out that our main girl in this book, Lazarus, cannot die. She actually survived pestilence as a baby. Her whole family had died, and it was the current mom, who now is also unfortunately dead, that had rode into town after and found her as a baby. And then there's also been like different accidents that happened where she should have died and she just didn't. She does kind of die in a sense, but then she comes right back to life. So that's the plot twist we were not expecting and were given.
Yeah, as soon as I finished the first couple chapters, I was like, oh, okay, yeah, this is going to be way better.
It makes sense. It makes sense. So 3 days later, she is in Alabama. There's a lot of moving around in this book. I was impressed by how much ground they cover, to be honest. Also, when I first started, the first place was Temple, Georgia. And for a minute, my brain was like, oh, is this like our Georgia, or is it like Georgia, the country of Georgia? Because I was like, we've been going all over. We're back in America now, though. So she does take a few months to find him, but she finally does. And she says her name. She's like, I'm Lazarus. He basically won't stop. Same thing. He kills her twice this time. He kills her. She comes back, and he like snaps her neck again. Just because he's also like, what the heck is going on? Yeah. Which, like, true love at first sight. You gotta be a little mean to each other at the beginning.
As soon as he snapped her neck, I'm like, yes! It's gonna be good.
True love. That's how you know it's a little feisty, a little spicy.
Yeah. So he, like, basically couldn't cleave her soul from her body like he could everybody else. Yeah, and so he's like, what the fuck?
Yeah. He's like, you're a little different here. And also, she is also realizing that because she cannot die, she's like, well, shit, I guess it's my job to try and save humanity.
If not me, then who?
Exactly. He takes off, and now she's on a mission. She wakes up, and she's like, okay. She takes 2 weeks to track him again and finally gets to a living city. She goes and tries to warn them, and of course they don't believe her. They're like, what do you mean? How do you know this? How do you survive? And she's like, no, I can't die. And they're like, what? Like, you are crazy. I think she ends up like cutting herself just to prove. I thought for a second, she was just gonna kill herself.
No,
real
me
quick
too.
To just like pop back.
Yeah,
surprise.
Because I thought it was just like if she dies or she comes back. I didn't know.
Yeah.
Like also she heals quicker.
Yes.
And so that's where we learned that. And
yeah.
And still, that one guy was I can't remember who it was. One person doesn't remember her or doesn't believe her and goes and does his own thing or whatever. And like, she's literally showing you that she can heal in a matter of hours.
Yeah.
Why still are you like, no, I don't believe you.
Right. At that point, I would have like, before, if you come in saying like, death is coming, we gotta go, I know I can't die, I'd be like, girl, are you feeling okay? Let's go have some tea. We'll chat. Like, but once you prove it, you'd be like, yeah, okay, I see. And yeah, there's always, that was a theme too, where each new place she got, if she tried to like tell them, they would just think she's crazy. And that's like frustrating. And, she was exhausted of that. So they come up with a plan, and they know kind of what highway he's probably going to end up riding it in. And they shoot him on arrival, shoot him down. He dies similar to how she dies, which means he's just out for a little bit. And she's like, no, you guys promised I get to take the body. And I was like, what are you gonna do here? So she leaves. She like puts him onto this little trailer attached to her bike, and she rides as long as she can, but eventually she has to stop. We're only human at the end of the day, even though she can't die. And it's so funny because she's like trying to grab her bag from underneath him, and she like couldn't get it out because he was laying on top of it, and she's so exhausted she just kind of like passes out next to him. And I was like, oh, you guys. That love.
He's passed out dead.
It's just like arrows, and she's like, nap time.
Your wing is so warm.
Remember, she like wakes up and she's like pretty close to his face. But he's still not awake, and so she tries to grab her bag again. He grabs her, she stabs him, and then he sucks the life out of her. She like dies, but doesn't die. Like, she still has her soul. She's gonna come back. So yet again, that's the third time he's killed her and pieced out. So she wakes up again. Now we're in Ohio. We've moved on. Same thing. This time he is ahead of her, and he actually waits to talk to her, but she tries to shoot him this time, and he's like, you know what, next time I'm not gonna be so friendly. Let's stop doing this. Laz. He has a nice little nickname for her. What did you think about the little like kind of cat and mouse following each other around the United States?
Yeah,
like it's nothing. Like
it became their thing, and later on, because he is zigzagging across the country, and she realizes there's a pattern, and then is like chasing him, but it kind of like becomes their thing. And later on, he reveals like, what you thought that's just how I moved. I was letting you catch up to me.
Right.
I was like, yo, what? I mean, it makes sense. But that became their thing. And he was like, yeah, I was letting you catch me. Otherwise, you're human. Come on.
Right. He's like, we both know that a straight line would have been the easiest, but we were just like taking our time.
Yeah, because he doesn't have to sleep. He doesn't have to eat. She does. So.
Right. Yeah, he's also one that was not his like innocence of things, of like not, I feel like he knew certain things about humans but didn't understand how anything worked.
And I love that, because war and famine were not like that, and pestilence was, and I gave Pestilence 5 stars. I loved
Yeah.
Pestilence.
Yeah.
And I think it was because of that. Like, I love the, like, I'm discovering the world for the first time vibes, and that's what we got out of Death. And he's even newer than Pestilence. Like, he just had woken up at the end of Famine. So, I loved it. I loved it.
That's a good point. He was most like Pestilence, because I think War was too human and Famine was too little human, and they were like crazy opposite ends of the spectrum. But so she is like, what I picture up on this like overpass, waiting for him to come through yet again, jumps down onto him, which I like how, like, in the writing she was like, so in my head this went really great, but in real life it didn't really work out.
As soon as she said 20 feet, I remember this because
I didn't.
Yeah, I was like, 20 feet? You're gonna hurt yourself. And so, yeah, she jumps off of the 20-foot high bridge onto Death, and his horse, and like topples him off. I'm like, this poor horse, man.
You did not sign up for
man.
that.
Yeah,
the horseman.
Yeah.
The horseman.
I felt so bad for the horse, but yeah, I was like, come on, 20 feet, girl.
Wild choice. She needed surprise. She needed to change it up and get a little bit of a surprise. And she doesn't want to keep hurting him. Then this is where we start to see her viewpoint of, like, she doesn't want to inflict violence as well. And so instead she takes him captive, ties him up. He obviously really likes that.
Yeah. And like with these tiny little ropes, I mean, we've already seen with the last 3 horsemen, like, come on, you're not going to keep him captive unless you're repeatedly killing him. But
right. Yeah. He plays along, which is funny because that's such like a human thing without him even maybe technically knowing. Like, you little freak, Dad. It was like, ooh, I like this game. And he points out that they both have a duty that they don't want. And I was like, Death, tell me more. He does not like his job, but he's like, I have this duty. And maybe that's where he could benefit from some more human, like, I don't really want to do it.
Yeah, but like, he already... I was
Tell me your thoughts.
I'm just so pissed off the whole time because he's like, I don't want to do it, but he's just,
and then he keeps doing it.
Yeah, but like, he knows, like, we were sent here for a reason, and throughout the first 3 books and his book especially, Deaths, like, initially we were sent here for a reason, but 3 times already it's been proven that God's got different plans for each of you. So, you know, like, bend a little bit. She even says that.
Yeah.
Like, humans bend for the people that they love.
Right.
Not that they love each other at that point, but
yeah. Well, and I feel like that's a good point, that like he saw the options that his brothers took, and rather than being like, oh, I could do that too, I could let myself have this happiness, and like it made him go so far the other way to be like, I have to do this.
Dude, you know what I just had this thought kind of reminds me of? Like, the older sibling like responsibility.
Yeah.
He's like, I am Death. I am the ultimate end to everything.
Yeah.
Like, the other 3, the other 3 could fuck up. I cannot mess this up.
Older child syndrome for sure. I feel that. They both have the duty that they don't want. She ends up falling asleep again because she cannot stay awake forever, and he snaps her neck. 4th time, 4th kill. Oh yeah, okay, they face off again, and this is a point where they end up like kind of fighting, little like combat, and he gets so distracted about her boobs being like in his face.
Oh yeah, she took full advantage of that.
She did, and she was like, oh, here you go. Again, how so human. What a human man to be like, oh, boobies.
And like it to have no history of that either. It's just like instinctual.
And he's like, look, we could be peaceful with each other. And she's like, no, we can't. Not with you doing what you're doing. So this is where we get to, they've now made their way up over down into Austin. And that's where I was like, hang on, that's such a big city. Like, there's no way that it's a survivable city after 26 years. But anyways, I digress. She deals with Austin officials, and they are not very kind. And they were like, oh, he wants you? Okay, let's leave you out here.
Yeah.
for him to like come and get her. And he kills everybody as he does, takes off with her because he said, we're not doing this anymore. And he goes and flies, and this is where she is being difficult. She won't stop fighting him, and she ends up accidentally stabbing him. And so what does he do? He accidentally, because he's been stabbed, drops her, and she plummets to her death. That's got very graphic.
Oh my gosh.
Because when she wakes up, she is like stuck. She's impaled on this like pole, and she just can't move for days. She is stuck there. She is hungry. She's thirsty. Can't do anything about it. And also it mentioned like the birds coming to like peck at her, and that is just a terrible experience. Death finally finds her. It takes him a while. He just like literally did not. And I think that shows how far up they were, because at first I was like, what do you mean he can't find her? Like, you dropped her. But I think that's just how high up that they were, that like whatever. And granted, it's a big city, so like, I don't know.
Yeah, but then later in the book he says that he can sense like living and dying things or something.
So he should have been able to sense
her. Yeah. Just like, yeah.
Interesting.
Suspicious. Like, you left her there for days. Was it on by accident?
Was it really? Yeah. And he finds her and he's like, my Lazarus, you won't leave me again. And this is where he also heals her, because as it's been shown, they can do both. So, they can destroy and they can also heal. She leaves, she runs for it, and he finds her in the next town over. He's like, I'm going to give you 1,000 seconds, which goes really well. That's definitely enough for her to outrun him. And asks her again to come to him, and she runs for it. And this is where he takes good old War's power. Well, technically, I mean, I guess whatever. They're all interconnected, but we first learned about it with War, and raises up a bunch of the dead, the revenants. And he's like, you were designed to be mine, and it's time I claim you. What were your thoughts about that part?
That was my thought. Yes.
Just yes.
Yeah, and then I think this is where, when she was running away, right? She finds Ben.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So he's like, I'll give you 1,000 seconds. She starts running, and like she hears a baby crying, right?
It's a little further. We're getting there.
Okay. Yeah. But yeah, man. Anytime it was like possessiveness, just please. And also, anytime that they, I don't know what this says about me, but anytime that he hurts her, I'm just like, you all you love.
I feel that when he like killed her, and I was like, ooh, he's flirting. He's just got this our love language. It's bad. Books only. Books only. It's not. These things do not apply in real world.
Don't snap your women's necks.
Yeah, I feel that about like possessiveness too, because in books it comes off so sexy, and then if someone says that to me in real life, I'd be like, ooh,
yeah,
this is a little concerning. Unless they pull it off right. I mean, unless you were written by a woman, then like maybe you have the idea, you're able to pull it off. Obviously he catches her and he rides off with her on his horse, and this is where she's really cold, and so he warms her up. He's so valiant. And he explains that he has like all of his brother's powers. Basically, he can do everything that they've done. So he sprouts up a bunch of plants. They stop for the night, and at the house that they're staying at, he sprouts up a bunch of plants to kind of like barricade in the house. And he's like, welcome home, darling. She doesn't like it. And even there's this question of like, it almost sounds like he intended to like stay there for like a while. Yeah. And he's like, you are not going to leave my sight ever, which again, good in the book, in real life. Mm-hmm. Be like, oh, this is a problem. She doesn't want to sleep inside of the house because again, it's like really run down and everything. And so she goes to sleep outside, and it's so cold. And he's like pacing back and forth because he's antsy. He doesn't sleep. That's not a thing. This is where we see how little he understands of humans, because her teeth start chattering, and he's like, what is this sound you're making? And her stomach crumbled, and he's like, oh my God. Yeah. Great heavens. Like, what is this? So he warms her up, and she sleeps. Well, he doesn't. And then it's time to head out. He ties her up, and he leaves to go do more killing, as he does. He's just doing his duty. That's his job. And in comes another horseman. This is where we get the other horseman back in. So in comes one of the horsemen, not named yet, and he's like, oh, we're looking for your boyfriend. And we get, this is Famine, and also he's calling her Tootsie.
Oh my God, yeah. As soon as I read that, I was like, oh, okay.
I think Anna really rubbed off on him a little bit.
100%. He even uses calm your tits, I think, one time.
Yes, yeah. No, he picked up a few of her expressions for sure. And it's so funny how much even she's teasing him, and everyone kind of teases him because he's the one that's trying to track down Death. But he's like, when he's flying, I can't really tell where he's at. And she's like, okay, sure. And then later he's like, wait, he's coming back. And she's like, so now it's working? Like, okay. He explains that he's Famine, and then the two other brothers show. And her first, like, the first thing that she noted was about pestilence, because one, he is the person that killed her whole family, her parents in the very beginning. Granted, she didn't really remember them, but she knows that that's part of her story. And also, she's like, he's old, which is fair, because at this point he had to have been like, he's closing in on 50, 50s, depending on how like old he technically was when he like became human.
Yeah, they said he's got grays and then crow's feet. So I was like, oh yeah.
So I thought like that was just sweet. I said it in an earlier episode about like them all reuniting and wearing like Christmas sweaters, and I just like need Grandpa Pestilence.
Oh my gosh. I think we got those vibes though, a little bit.
Yeah. So she tries to leave, but they're like, wait, we want to stop Death too. She tries to make a run for it. They mentioned their families are all far away. They're up in like Vancouver Island. Yeah. And so literally like the other side pretty much. With all the children and everything. And that's where Famine's like, I feel him coming back. And they're like, oh, okay, sure. So the two brothers leave. Famine stays there because Famine is still immortal, but the other two brothers are very much human. So he's like, y'all gotta go because it's just dangerous. And basically Famine turns around, threatens Laz, and kind of like almost like a hostage situation, feels extreme, but like kind of trying to get some things moving. And then, because Death swoops in. So Death and Famine are fighting. This is when Lazarus runs for it. And it's like storming outside. And that's where all of a sudden she's like, wait, I hear a baby. So before we go to the baby stuff, I guess just what were your thoughts around like getting to see the other brothers finally and
getting God.
That whole like update, that whole scene?
Yeah, no, I was so excited. I was like, oh my God. So we are going to get like more of their lives now that they're older. I was just, really excited to see them in the book. But like the part that I don't know, like I found the most funny about that situation is like they find her tied up and like she's his captive or whatever. And I can't remember who probably Famine. And he's like, oh, so you're Death's woman. She's like, I am not his woman.
Yeah.
And so who tied you up here? Death. Okay, so you're his woman.
Like, no, they've been through it.
Captivity is the first step. You're gonna be fine. Yeah. That was hilarious.
You'll die a few times, you'll come back. It's fine. a whole process, but
Yeah.
we've all made it through. Like
Mhm.
it was very nice to see them and get them back in the mix.
I thought that Famine and Death's fight was gonna be more I don't know, less death kicking Famine's ass. I was like, damn, like give him a challenge at least. Yeah, she wasn't even worried about it.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, and she just took off. So we technically we didn't see the outcome of that.
Yeah.
Like I wonder if at one point he's just like, where the fuck is Lazarus?
Yeah.
Like ends it. For the sake of that. But yeah, so she finds a baby. Now everyone in this town has already been killed, but for some reason the baby is alive. So she thinks to herself, maybe he is like me. And also just a really sad moment because she sees the parents, lying on the floor dead, and she's able to get him some milk, and she finds that in his room, like that's where she sees his name, that it's Ben. They ride and ride and ride until she gets all the way to Louisiana. She's like basically backtracked across a couple states again. That's a lot of riding.
Yeah.
I think, because my mom lives in Austin area, so like we road trip that way, and like that's a 16-hour drive from here. So
yeah, let alone on a horse.
Yeah, that's a lot. So she essentially becomes like this is where we kind of get some big like time jumps, like a few months have already happened. She's essentially Ben's mom now and hops from town to town as death is kind of slowly following her. So when she kind of gets wind that he's shown up, or like all the animals running through is kind of the precursor to him showing up. So she'll kind of just be like, oh, it's time to go. Unfortunately, Ben gets sick. This was so stressful. He gets really sick, and pestilence shows up again all of a sudden. And he's like, hey, he's going to need antibiotics. And like, here's our address. We need to finish the conversation that we were having. Turns out Ben has meningitis, and they are going to give him like antibiotics. Also, again, we're 26 years into this. Like, are people like making medicine again? Or like, I don't think anything would have lasted.
No, yeah, they said that some hospitals still have stock.
Yeah.
But like by the time they sent for it and got it, he'd be gone.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was like, how are you making that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was also confused.
Yeah. It's funny because in my head, like I pictured her being at a normal functioning hospital. Like my brain didn't connect the dots of like, there's no electricity.
Yeah.
There's not, I mean, that doesn't interfere with the IV bag because that's just like gravity. Like that's fine. That's believable, I guess, technically, but like there's no electricity. So like, I really got stuck on.
Dude, I'm telling you, I'm just in my head, they're in a hospital. Beep, beep, beep is what I'm hearing. And you're like,
right, yeah, the little rolly cart with all the like yeah, that's the joys of reading, is we really just like create our own worlds. But yeah, so sorry to like crash your be like,
I feel like typically how our conversations go.
Welcome. Thanks for joining me. I think in the future Gabby's gonna be like, nah, I don't really want let me just have this one.
Anything I know we're gonna talk about, I'm gonna read the book like, all right, where are the holes?
That's so funny. It's funny because at the last podcast I did with my friend Holly, she was always the one like bringing stuff up, and I was like, but no, that's not how it goes.
You're killing it for me.
That's not how it was. Then we find out he has the type of meningitis that isn't treated by antibiotics, and he's just like fading really quickly to the point that death shows up. I'm stressed at this point.
Oh my God.
And he's like, it's Ben's time. He does, out of the weird kindness of his heart, give him like one more day. She's not going to accept that. So what does she do? She grabs Ben, goes to the address, and was like, heal him. I will do whatever you want. Just heal him. And I think, was it Laura, the one that was like, seduce him? Was it?
Yeah. So first of all, I don't know why she didn't think of this first, because like, where all of the horsemen are staying, in this town that you're in, waiting for like your decision, or you to join them basically. And like, I guess she's stressed. Her son is dying. But the whole time I'm like, one of these horsemen can help. Pestilence, he doesn't have his power, neither does War. But like Famine could have helped. He did it with his woman. Like, so she rides, takes Ben, basically like begs them to do something, begs Famine. Famine's like, no, I'm not gonna heal. I'm not gonna do that. She's like, I will do anything. And they're like, all right, seduce death. And yeah, I think it was War that said it.
He knows the strategy.
Yeah. So yeah, Famine heals the kid and heals Ben, and he looks like he's like being fatherly, you know, like he was like, "Ah, little Ben." So I'm like, "See, you like kids? Don't mess around."
So first of all, War, I just always pictured this like big built dude that's just an absolute teddy bear.
Yeah,
that would like tickles his little daughter.
Yeah,
you know? Like,
same.
But they also point out that because like she technically doesn't know if Ben is like her or not, and that's not something you necessarily want to just test out on a whim. So he's like, you know, if you go seduce him, we're gonna have to take him. That just like makes sense. We'll go deliver him to where our wives and families are. And this is where I mentioned Victor has 3 kids and War has 4. And again, if we're 26 years into this, like, his kids have to be adults, right? Like in their 20s?
Yeah.
Well, at least the oldest.
Yeah, teens at least. Yeah. I don't remember the age of the kids. I know one of them was like super young.
Let me see if it gives us a time and epilogue. Okay, year 10. And they had 2 kids by then? Or 1 kid? I don't know.
Out of my brain. I don't know.
So 26. Yeah, like teenagers. I have teenagers in this book. It's interesting. I was like looking at. I never look at the timeline, but now my brain's like, let me just see.
This is the first series I've had to, I think, because I'm like, I need to understand.
And there's pretty sizable jumps in between each book too.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Victor has 3 kids, War has 4, and Famine still has none. At first I was gonna be like, maybe down the road, but then I was like, you know what? No, Santa's choice. She'll let him know when she's ready, if she's ready. And she makes Famine promise to keep Ben safe because she's like, out of all of them, he's the one that's a little sketchy.
Not the one that killed my parents.
No, it's fine. He's old now. So she kind of like leaves a little note for Death on her apartment door, being like, come find me. He does. He takes her. We're not surprised about that. And now we're getting into the kind of like the second half of the book where like the seduction starts happening. He flies her to this like giant mansion, and again he uses all the plants to lock them in, and we find out he got her a whole bunch of clothes from like all over and brought them in, and she like again notes verbatim, she's too coward to act on her thoughtish thoughts, because she be having some like, she's like, man, all of this for me. She living out her best dreams. And he basically has like all of the servants and maids are just like the remnants, the just like dead that just kind of, I really wasn't too like uneased by that. I don't know what that says about me, but I was like, sure, like I would go stay in a mansion. Like I don't have to talk to anybody. Like I know they're not talking about me behind my back.
Yeah, like you wouldn't have to clean or cook, which is sick.
Yeah, they just take care of everything.
Yeah, but they touch your food. Do they wash their bones?
Yeah.
No.
Make gloves.
They were not wearing gloves.
No, I don't wear that. Maybe that's a rule I would like.
Yeah.
I would make that rule. You gotta wear gloves. Maybe a little face mask, or like, I don't know. Maybe there needs to be a cleansing process. I need to see what these. I just pictured like just clean skeletons, like
yeah, like straight up bones. But
yeah,
even the bones, like you're not. There's no way that they have washed themselves. The bones are dirty, and that's kind of icked me out because she's eating what they.
That's fair.
And she kept mentioning it.
That's fair.
Like the bony hands touching this chicken. Ew.
Okay, I see that. I see the point. I think reading it, I didn't make it so gruesome, I guess. I was like, I don't think I'd mind. I'd overlook it, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know.
But I think we'd have to make gloves a rule.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So.
Chicken already, I'm so easily grossed out. Like, and then you add bones.
That's a good point. I don't eat wings. And people are like, why? I'm like, oh, because there's a bone in it. Okay, you toddler. Grow up.
Whatever. I need boneless wings or nothing. Give me my chicken nuggets.
Some nice tendies. Okay, so he's like, we're gonna have this victory dinner because I won finally, and for her, like, being like, okay, my job is to seduce him. She's like, you know what? If you try a piece of food, because he's like, oh, I don't eat, I don't do any of those human things. She's like, if you try a piece of food, I'll give you a kiss. Sure enough, she gives him. It's just like bread dipped in oil, and he gags.
Drama queen, dude.
Like, how petty.
Dude, it's like a kid when you give them something they don't want to eat and they're like, ugh.
And like making themselves do it.
Yeah. You're not serious. Come on, bread. Get over it.
It'd be different if it was like something that tasted very strongly. But it's just bread.
Yeah.
It's just bread.
Dramatic.
Too dramatic.
Yeah.
He's doing too much. So they do end up kissing. She makes good on her promise. Man, it is good, but she backs off. She's like, I can't.
Okay, now I'm getting my scenes mixed up, but I think it's while they're in this house, right? They have their first like steam. You're gonna get to it. Let me stop right there.
Okay.
Continue.
All right. I will. Thank you.
Yes. Anytime that they like even brushed hands, anything, I'm like,
and they felt that too. Every time they just have to look at each other and they're like, let's go. The chemistry was doing things. So she wakes up and asks the skeleton crew for some coffee. They deliver. You can talk to them, ask whatever you want. They're working on breakfast, and she's like, I don't know about breakfast though. So she goes out and picks some apples from the orchard, and he's kind of hanging around, and he hears her singing, and he's like, is this music?
And then like, oh man, anybody like, oh, you sing so well, sing something. Like, I was singing until you asked me.
Until you interrupted.
And now I have stage fright. Damn.
Ruining it. Just stay quiet. Go to a corner.
Yeah.
She's like, all right, I gotta seduce him. She gets all dressed up, like to the point she has this dress on. She puts a little anklet on. That's how you know they mean business. And she
does
goes,
her face.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, puts on makeup,
Mm-hmm.
and she goes and like hops on the table. So she's sitting on the table in front of him. And this is where he gives her permission to like touch him at wherever she would like. And so she does. And like she gets on top of his lap, friction, things are happening, and he's like, this isn't sex, what's happening?
Yeah.
He doesn't know the sensations. You sweet little thing.
That's what I'm talking about though, like discovering what all of the newness to me is like.
Right.
Yeah, it just hits harder for me.
Yeah. And I think it's so sweet because I think what we tend to deal with maybe in our like day-to-day lives, people are more experienced. It's nothing. So when it's like that special and you can see that like enjoyment, it becomes like such a sweet thing, I guess. I don't know. This is like, what's happening? And she's like, you know what? It's that blowjob to save humanity. We finally got there. And he goes, Lazarus, something's like,
oh my God,
happening, and he gets cut off. I'm not gonna read it out loud. You can read the book if you want, but this sentence in particular, when I was like, oh, that's
dude, there are, like there's books that there's spicy scenes that just stay with you.
Yeah.
And this was so much one of those. Like I was reading it, and it's like when you don't realize or remember that you're reading, and just to see the feelings and sensations that he's experiencing for the first time.
Yeah.
And then to be like, what's going on? What's happening? And like,
If you don't know what to expect, that probably feels terrifying.
I mean, yeah, because
Not
you're
have
like,
a heart attack.
yeah, you're like warring with the like, I don't want this to stop, but also I'm scared.
Am I about to have a stroke? Like,
oh my gosh,
yeah,
that was such a good scene.
A lot of sensations going on. And she literally grabs the wine, grabs some bread, and it's like, all right.
Okay, I was like, coward. I get it has to end, but like,
I get it.
man.
So the next morning, he's like, "What happened? You ran away. I want to return the favor. I want to, but please, like, let me try." Skeletons are already all packing up. They're like, we're moving on. He's like, I gotta go. We've been here for a while. Still got a job to do. Unfortunately, forgot about that part. And she asks him not to kill the next city, and instead asks him to see what humanity is about. I was like, Lazarus, you sweet thing, that is not going to go well. I knew it wasn't going to go well.
Yeah.
She thought he was just going to ride in, talk to some people, go to the little corner store, get some snacks, and like move on. And immediately everyone, they're shooting. It's not great. They show up. She gets shot by an arrow by pushing Death out of the way to try to like save him. And she wakes up after that like death or whatever, and he ends up taking her to a new house. And she asks, if I were human, would you kill me? And he's like, yep, unfortunately. Not even unfortunately. He's just like, yep, that's my job.
Yeah, I was so pissed off. But then he's like, okay, but if killing me would have saved all of humanity, would you do it?
Yeah.
And she was like, absolutely. So I was like, oh, okay. Yeah, well, you're both shitty. That's
there you go. This is fine. You were made for each other. So they get steamy yet again. He's been dying to repay the favor. And he also admits that he's wanted her from like the very first time that he saw her. And so he starts exploring, and obviously he has no experience. And he's like, what's this?
Oh my gosh!
I pictured like Jack Skellington. What's this? What's this?
Oh my gosh. Another, yeah. Oh, I love the discoveries.
It's so sweet. It's such a like sweet, tender, and it does stick with you because usually, like I said, usually it tends to be reversed where the man comes in and he's like, I know how to do this. And she's like, I don't know. And this one for him to just be like, so attuned to like one, being okay, being vulnerable and like not knowing what things are, but like being so confident of like, no, I'm gonna figure this out though.
Yeah.
And being able to like watch her and be in tune with her and like figure it out is just what everyone could hope for in life. And so finally he actually enters her. They go to town. And afterwards, it was so good. Afterwards, she's like, yep, I'm yours. It's all good. Done.
First time, we're good. That's it.
She, in turn, introduces him to a nice warm bath because he's never needed that, whatever, and asks what his markings mean. And he's like, it's angelic for I'll end humanity. Oh, that's so nice.
Okay, and something that I had a hard time picturing because he had markings literally all over his body, like every single spot. And I was like, because she says it when she touches them, there's like a tingle. If they're also like, you know what I'm saying?
There's a tingle.
If they're down there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't mention it though. And I was like
that was a missed opportunity.
Yeah.
I like the way you think.
Immediately, that's what came to my mind.
Yeah, so he'll end humanity, but also that they're meant for each other. It's like, okay, whatever. They go back into they're in their frenzy, what I've now lovingly dubbed every time they get together, and they're like, okay, we got to do this all the time now. Which she mentioned, she was like 5-6 times a day. She was like, I am tired. We need a break.
Yeah, I don't even know. Well, she mentions that like they sleep in between, right? And like
and he'll like wake her up throughout the night too, which like again, sexy. Do that in real life, I'm gonna start crying because I'm so tired. Dude, I do not do well in the lack of sleep.
Yeah, I get pissed off. Anybody, you wake me up, I'm biting your head off. Like, it pisses me off so bad.
Good to know. Good to know.
I don't care what it's for. Yeah.
Don't wake me up.
Mm-mm.
Oh, that's fair. That's fair. I don't mind. I guess I don't mind being. I'm actually a really light sleeper, so I wake up
Same.
all the time.
Yeah.
But I'll be fine until I'm not fine, and then I'm gonna be crying because like one strand of hair is not laying the right way or something. It's not great.
I think that's why I get so pissed off, because like I've already woken up 50 times.
That's
like,
fair.
please.
Yeah, please. She finally gets up, and she also mentions this as well, of like her even noticing that when it comes to being intimate, she can tell that he's trying to cover up his need to continue to like move on and like do his duty. And so finally she gets up and she's like, dude, my body needs a break. 2, I know you got stuff you got to do. We can go. And when they leave the house, like all these dead vines, at first I kind of missed it. And like she said something and I was like, wait, I need to reread this. And it's like all his vines and just kind of like, an extension of his like magic, his power, that I just imagine all these like dead vines and everything just covered like all the grounds around where they're at. And I was like, oh, interesting detail, I guess. They're chatting more and more as well, and she does admit to not wanting children with him. She's like, you would make a terrible father. You kill everything. Like it's not gonna work out. And he's a little sad about that.
I was a little sad too.
I know.
Oh, Death.
And so she tries again to try and get him to like see humanity, and this time they decide to just creep in and watch a family from outside their house.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is so weird. And they're like talking and flirting, and I was like, you guys shut up. Like you're spying on this family.
Yeah.
Like, how do they not know?
And he was like profoundly touched by what he saw. Like he was like, oh my God, humanity's so nice. And like, yeah, but fucking weird. You're in a bush outside their window.
You weirdo. It's like a family and they're playing board games. They're like having a pillow fight, and the parents are like, all right, kids, time for bed. Like,
but also, what a Hallmark description of a family. Like,
I know. Nobody really acts like that.
No.
One of the kids would have gotten punched and then they would have been
100%.
crying and they would have gotten in trouble.
Yep.
Like, and what did I choose? Okay, so I wrote down because she's like asking again of like why, they've like playing this game where they like tell each other little secrets, the oldest game in the book. Tell me something about yourself. And he's like, he admits that he doesn't like taking lives, which again, he's so adamant about his job for not liking it.
Yeah, and then for like not being willing at all to change or like to stop doing it and change. Like,
yeah,
weird.
Yeah, and so he goes on to say, I'm not saying death is wrong or that what lies beyond isn't better, which that was also another like common thing where he's like, you don't even know how good it is once you die, which is very comforting for, I guess, like humanity when we don't know what's next, really, depending on what you believe in. He goes, I'm not even saying I don't believe in my task, but the act of taking someone who is not scared of death or who is happy with life or who is not ready, and so few are ready, wearies me to the bone. I grimly do my job, but I've never gotten joy from taking a life. She goes, is there joy in what you do? And he goes, yes. After I release them, when a soul sees what lies beyond, when they truly remember what they are and have been this entire time, that moment is joy. Which kind of answers, because after that, you're like, why are you doing what you're doing then?
Yeah.
Like, because God told you, I guess.
I'm a rule follower.
Also, we find out God's a woman. He's like,
oh my God, yeah.
And I was like, makes sense. Yes. And so Lazarus calls him out for being hypocritical about not being human and yet like having all of these kind of human traits as well of like, it also comes from humanity. And she's like, can you just bend just a little bit for me? Let's work together. We'll figure this out. And she goes, I want Ben alive. And he's like, okay, I can agree to that. And she also asked about Ben multiple times while Ben is away in Vancouver with the ladies. And like, she's like always checking in. Is he alive? So he turns around and he's like, let me show you how angels do it. And then they go fly in the sky, which is great. Another great moment.
Dude, and I knew it was going to be, you have to incorporate those wings somehow. Like
You do. You gotta.
Yeah.
You can't have wings and not like use them. And okay, so they're going along, and I thought it was really sweet that he kind of wants to like provide the most for her, and she's like, we can just like sleep on the side of the road as well, because now they're gonna head to go get Ben essentially. And they get ambushed one night. There's like a bunch of gangs throughout the roads. They're in like West Texas, or maybe getting to like Nevada. Like I just pictured like barren desertness. But he dies, he gets killed, and then she manages to kill 5 of the men before she goes down herself, which was interesting because she was covered in his blood. So if they touched her, they would just wither and die. And I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. At first, I missed that part, that she was covered in his blood, and I was like, man, he's just rubbing off on her.
I know.
And I was like, you gonna do it too? That's so cool.
Someone grabbed her forearm, and I was like, and then they fall dead, and I was like, wait, did he like spell her or something? Like, why can you do that?
His essence is like, now that they've
and then they say later, oh, it's his blood on her forearm. Okay. I was like, oh, shit, dude.
So she wakes up in like this place that like women are chained up. It's not great. The main guy, Shane, is not kind at all. Not surprising. And I like when she was just kind of like, she was confident enough to be like sassy and spunky, and she knew like that Thanatos was going to come and get her soon. And
she can't die. That helps.
Yeah, that does always help.
But also the other women can, and they were like, she kept being shitty, being loud, talking, and they're like, hey, shut up, we don't want to get beat again. And she kind of just like disregarded them.
That is true. So he Death gets free and ends up killing everyone, but also by killing, well, no, he kills Shane, the main guy, and then makes him come back and like kill other people or something. He started doing this thing where he would kill like 1 or 2 people and then like make them come back as revenants to kill the rest of them, which like kind of what a brilliant, like terrifying way to go.
Yeah.
But then he kills everyone. She's like, make it stop, and but then he kills everyone. And she did have a moment where she was really sad. I'm gonna be like bummed, but that felt not really bummed that the ladies died. But
yeah, she only had like a 5-minute interaction with them, and like again, maybe I'm just less caring, but she was really upset about the women dying. Yeah, which like but they were assholes to you for the 5 minutes that you spoke. Why are you so tore up about it? But whatever.
Yeah. So he did use zombies to kill Shane, like, and kind of instill so much fear in him. And then that's where Lazarus points out, she was like, well, they're victims too. And he's like, to live is to die. Very, very poetic.
Amen. Life is suffering.
They run into more gangs along the way, and he does the same thing where he'll turn one of the men into like the zombies, for lack of a better word, revenants, whatever, and then kill the rest of them. And I kind of liked how he pointed out that violent lives get violent deaths. I was like, okay, I can support that.
I can do that.
And he explains what it's like kind of taking souls, and basically how I picture, because so many people are dying so constantly, that it's just, he's kind of nonstop, just bouncing around, getting people to the afterlife. And he's like, you know what? Time slowed since I met you. Which again, if anyone said that, I feel like, okay. But if Death told that to me, I'd be like, absolutely, I love you.
I was like, aw.
And okay, I was actually really surprised with this fact, because you know how we were talking about, like, man, life is so unfair. Yeah. Why did the first 2 get their women and get to like change? They basically become mortal and like live happy lives, but Famine, he was like, nah, you don't get that option. Yeah. And he literally points out, he's like, Famine set aside his task for a personal reason, being Anna, not the rest of humanity. He still doesn't really like humanity. And I was like, you know what? Okay, that actually kind of makes sense. Like, I get it. I get the reasoning.
I'm still mad about it.
That's fair. I can be mad about it. But I was like, okay, I understood the reason.
In the end, it was useful, though. Like, Famine could fight death. So
True. True. That makes sense. And that would make sense why, like, it would have been written that way rather than making him human too, because then they would have had no chance towards the end. Like, and same thing. She argued, like, it's all the same, you know, to love one human, you kind of love humanity in a sense. And she starts to realize, like, he's not going to stop. She's done everything she could do to seduce him, and they have somewhat of a great relationship, but he's not going to stop his purpose. And so she tries again, kind of her last ditch efforts to let, like, all the walls come down in between them and really commit to, like, the seducing him and being there for him. And she's like, hang on, you can bring people back, right? Bring my mom back. And because he mentioned he can resurrect people. And he's like, you don't understand. She's like, bring her back. So what does he do? He does. He shows her, and her mom pops up fully naked. And her mom's like, take me back. Take me back. I don't want to be here. Take me back. And that's such, like, a heartbreaking
Oh my God, yeah.
moment. I feel like she should have known not to mess with that kind of stuff. But, like,
she probably thought,
that's tough.
like, well, all these people are dying. It had to have been before their time.
Yeah.
But yeah, oh, I was tearing up.
Yeah.
I was tearing up real bad.
Yeah. And that's where he points out to Lazarus. He's like, you're only clinging to life because you don't know any better. You don't know what's after. And that's where she's like, oh shit, maybe I'm fighting for the wrong side too. And I was like, oh, that's a good point. I almost, for 1 second, I thought, you know what, she's gonna switch and they're just gonna, like, carry out the rest of the task and just, like, free everyone that way, essentially.
Yeah,
for the briefest second, I had that, yeah.
For Loki, I was kind of hoping that it was gonna go some crazy way. Yeah. In the end, like, the way it ended was fine, but or it was good.
Yeah.
But, like,
it was fine.
It was fine. But, yeah, but I did kind of want, like, some crazy ending, because if I was an author, and thank God I'm not, I would just fuck with everybody's, like, expectations of mental health.
I'm honestly surprised we don't get that more often in books, especially I read so many fantasy books where the author is just like, boom, everyone dies at the end.
Well, there's probably, like, you have to, for lack of a better word, you probably have to pander a little bit, because you're going to lose readers if, you know, you have, especially people that are, like, reading dark romance, and we all got a little bit of mental illness, so if you're writing a book with everyone's dead, I'm wrecked. I can't.
But I feel like then you could wrap it with a little bow and be like, it'd be for a very good reason, though. You know, like,
a lot of people don't give a fuck.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't care about your reason.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a no.
Loki, like, not to go off on a whole another thing, but that is what I imagine Rebecca Yarros does. She's like, how can I piss off my readers the most?
That's fair.
And I think I would be like that.
That's fair. That's fair. I have yet to read Onyx Storm. So we'll get to it. I'm kind of, like, prolonging it. I don't know why. Yeah. I'm like, okay, fair. I like watching her, like, interviews though, because she's so, like, to the point where, okay.
But I like that, because I don't like authors that are, like, trying to dance around. Give me an answer.
No, she does. Yeah.
And I love
absolutely. So that obviously doesn't go over well, and they're moving their way over to California so that they can go north to Vancouver. And he's like, you know what, I want to stay in California for a bit. He notices that she is realizing that her task is, like, futile in a sense, and she's kind of starting to, like, lose her light, recognizing that it's not going to work. And he tells her not to give up, which I thought this was interesting too. He was like, don't stop trying to convince me. Don't give up. It's like, death.
But also, if you know you're not going to change, what a shitty thing to say.
Right? You're giving me false hope.
Yeah, like, I just want you to keep trying.
Yeah.
It's nice. I'm never going to give you what you want.
But just, like, I like the spunk. Convince me.
Like, oh yeah, I live to serve, please.
And so because they're out by the beach, she runs into the ocean. It's freezing cold. And she's like, I'm gonna go swimming, and he comes into. He does not like it, and they go at it again because why not? Best place. And this is where he admits he loves her, and then they just go at it again and again and again because what's new? And in an effort to bring some more humanity, she's like, you know what? We're gonna make some bread. We call it soul food. And he takes it so literally, so he does not like understand the concept of it, which is pretty funny.
Very on brand.
Yeah. And so like kind of the whole like, mixing the dough and everything, they're chatting and they bake it and he actually likes it. Like,
and I think it was because they made it together, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. He couldn't disrespect her like that. He couldn't disrespect her soul food like that. So they're sleeping there for a few nights, and she actually wakes up in the middle one night and finds him sleeping next to her. She's like, "Oh, this is new."
I really thought that something bad was going to happen because that's why they were attacked last time, right? He fell asleep, and that's when he got killed. She got taken. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, sleeping again, please.
On the job.
On the job.
How dangerous.
But no, I mean it's nice that I'm like that. I thought that he was kind of losing his immortality a little bit. Like, yeah, I was like, is this going to be like the more he falls, the less immortal he is? Yeah. And I kind of like that. It was not that, but
it was not. But I like that too. I like that idea of like you could see more of the humanity where he's starting to eat a little bit, and it was funny because then it switches to his POV, and he's like, "Man, I fell asleep again." He was like, "I don't like this." It's very like uncomfortable. You just like lose consciousness for a while. And he even considers having children with her, which I thought was interesting that he had that thought where like he could just choose to decide to get her pregnant, but she also said she didn't want any kids and like he couldn't do that to her. So
I low-key thought he was gonna.
So did I. Mm-hmm. So did I. Also, he knows his brothers are near. He can feel them. They're probably within the next, day. And he's like, you know what? But nothing is going to stop me. And I'm like, really? Still? Really? So he starts acting really weird. She's noticing him acting weird. And he's going on about God intervening in these things. And he's like, which I thought that was interesting too. Because I had been thinking about that as well of like, I mentioned in each book, it seems like the woman is destined for, like predestined for them. It's not just like they found someone and they were like, "Ooh, you're going to be the one." Like there was always some sort of sign. So like, again, I guess I question why did God choose to do this if it was also her that like gave them all the keys, I guess, to like stop it?
Yeah, because the way that the ending was, and I'm sure like you're gonna get into it, but like it felt like God was kind of pushing him towards her. But if that is the case, why didn't you intervene before, like sooner?
Right.
Yeah, I don't know.
If it was that strong of an attraction, why like create all this chaos?
Yeah, well, a book, but
fair. Yes, correct. And like, okay, so he was talking about how God intervenes on so many things, yet because we're human, we just fail to see it around like why she's immortal, why Ben survived as a baby. It's like been all these things that kind of are nudging things in a certain direction. And on the road, they stop and he reads her the rest of his tattoos, which that was like paragraphs. That was a lot. And basically the last judgment happens when he makes his like final decision and you're like, okay, this is getting close. Granted, at this point there's like this much left in the whole book. I was concerned.
Yeah,
there was so little. The brother shows up and she goes straight to Pestilence's arms. She's like realizing she failed. He also assures her that Ben's okay, and that's very sweet. And Laz is like freaking out and Death is like, nope, this is happening right now. So he goes and flies in the air, and now it's like a 4-on-1 situation. This was very stressful. He sends out his death wave, and he's essentially killing what they estimate to be about 1 mile a minute. And so they're trying to stop him before he reaches everyone's families up in Vancouver Island. And so Pestilence is trying to shoot him, and like famine and war get involved. It's a whole thing. I think at one point, you can correct me if I'm wrong on any of this, because I stopped taking notes at this point because I just needed to read through what was happening. I think at one point, War goes to the like building thing. Is he the one that goes up on the roof? Pestilence? Okay, Pestilence goes up on the roof, and I was like, he's gonna die.
Yeah.
This is stressful. That old man.
I know, they said the oldest. Yeah.
I was like, everything's like crumbling and crackling, but he needed to get close enough to be able to try to shoot Death. That falls. Luckily, Famine can catch him with his little plant. And then Death raises a whole bunch of revenants, and War loves this part. He loves to be killed. He's all excited. But then basically, Famine's like running out of power. So he builds a wall around him and Pestilence, and War's like, no, I will fight from the outside so the revenants can't get you. Like, no, he's gonna die.
Yeah, but like, why?
I don't know.
Like, if they created this barrier to keep, everyone else safe, why? I thought this so many times. Why are you out there? Just go inside of the barrier. I don't understand.
No, that's a good point. I guess I just assumed because the barrier wasn't like foolproof, maybe like for the
more reason to have somebody in there, right? Because if they're surrounding, I don't know. Maybe it's just me. But
no, that's a good point. It felt very like sacrificial. Like,
yeah, and I was like, you probably need a little bit of that at the big end of a book. Like, you need somebody to be like, it's been good. I'm gonna die.
Yeah. That was giving Throne of Glass. I forget his name, but when he was like, you know what I'm talking about?
Dude's dad.
Yes.
Gudriel?
And he's like,
I don't know. Remember.
No, that I don't even remember the name, but he's like, no, I got it. You go. And I was like, why? You just.
Oh my God! Yeah.
I'm glad you knew what I was talking about.
100%. Because I was just as pissed off then.
Yeah.
Oh, way more pissed off actually.
So the idea is they're all just trying to attack him to get him to fall out of the sky, because then Lazarus could kill him and buy them some time. And after they're all attacking him nonstop, and then they're like starting to break down and like die in a sense. And finally he goes down, and it's Lazarus's job. And she's like, I can't hurt him. And she's like, no, wait, he said that, God intervenes all the time. So she's like, you know what? Just like help me out, and we'll do this together. Like, we got this. So rather than, she couldn't possibly hurt him. So what does she do? She stabs herself. But because she talked to God, she's now human. She actually can die, and she does die.
Oh my God!
And everyone's dead at this point.
Yeah, I knew she wasn't gonna kill him. But I was like, in my brain, I was like, no, she wouldn't kill herself. Yeah. Oh my God, that happens, and I didn't realize that was the result. Like, I didn't know she was human at that point.
Yeah.
I was freaking out. I was like, oh no.
I feel that. So not only does she kill herself, but then Death shows up to take her to the afterlife. And I'm like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
He delivers her there. And of course she sees like, all of her family, and not only just her family, but also her parents that she didn't recognize them, but it was obvious that was her parents, like her biological parents that Pestilence had killed. And she's like, well, this has been fun. I get like, bye.
I know.
And then he's like, wait. He almost walks away, but then he's like, wait. And he's like, I've done all this. How could you ever forgive me? And she's like, of course, that's what we do. You're forgiven. I love you. And then and comes back. And that's when he finally renounces himself. And then they all go up to Vancouver Island, which luckily didn't get wiped out, and reunite with with all of the wives and children. Which I don't know exactly who yelled it, but one of them like was like pussy power.
Oh, dude, come on, Anna, for sure. Famines lady, absolutely.
Yeah. So that was the end of that. And then I guess, okay, pause before we get to the like epilogue, little chapter section, but the final battle.
I don't know. A lot of it felt just like a little why the whole time, you know? Like if he can raise the dead and you're fighting all these dead people that cannot die, it's just never ending. What is even all the effort for?
Yeah.
Because I mean, I get it. Again, it's a book, I get it. But like, damn, dude.
Yeah.
It just felt a little pointless.
That's fair. That's fair. I'm never a fan of like big action scenes. It kind of all just muddles together in my brain. Unless there's like distinctive, but like I don't even really like action movies. So it makes sense to me why I don't really care for the book format. So like it dragged on a little bit. Luckily it wasn't like too long, I guess, in my opinion, but it was kind of
I like one-on-one like fighting scenes. They're easy to picture, easy to describe. Because if it's a big fight scene, I'm picturing little segments in my brain. So.
It gets disconnected. Then you're like, okay, they're doing this over here, but then okay, he's over here, but then 1 second, really quick. So that's why I do the same. Where like I can tell you weird little parts of that scene, but like making it all a cohesive story of like where things are happening. But yeah, okay. So we get to year 28. And a light comes back on. The electricity is somehow back after 28 years.
Yes.
But then we get the like epilogue. Epilogue. And it basically talks about how they all grow old, and obviously because he was the like him and Famine were essentially the youngest to like turn. He watches his brothers die, and then Lazarus dies before him. That's what made me cry because I was like, it's just so sad. They all had kids and grandkids, and like I just think it's so rare to get such a nice, peaceful bow on a story. Especially something like that where like it feels actually impactful and not just like they lived happily ever after. He's like, no, we all died, but we did have our like, which is part of it, you know?
Yeah.
That was part of their happy ever after.
I agree.
So that one got me. I don't know. It's something about death that is like, oh, okay. Sad and happy at the same time. I know they're happy after, but yeah.
And I think that's why it's more impactful. We never get like at least in a book I can remember, we never really get they're dead now, but it's still good.
Yes, yeah. Well, and it's on theme of like again the whole journey we've gone on as far as like humanity and what it means to be human, and that's just like part of the experience is dealing with death on top of love and life and like suffering and all these crazy things. Yeah. Well,
I loved it. I was telling Matt, my husband, today that like I really liked the series. And I think you kind of probably know I started on a very high note and then it was downhill, and then death did bring it back. So overall I really like the series. Death was still not my favorite though.
Okay.
Pestilence is still my favorite.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've like the kind of fresh, no expectations. You know, all
it's hard to beat that.
Yeah. Okay. So what did you rate Death?
4.
Okay.
Yeah, 4 stars.
That's fair. That's fair.
What about you?
I gave it a 5 as well. So I kind of like teetered.
Yeah.
Definitely, which was a nice ride. I think I think it's just the order that I read books, because I just did A Cruel Thirst, and because that one had a very impactful death scene as well, where like a character, spoilers, just character dies and like goes and sees the rest of it wasn't his family, it was another girl's family, but like the grandpa was like, just tell her that I love her, and I was sobbing. No, I was gone in that book.
That sounds rough.
And it was so sweet for like such a scary, sad moment. So I think I think had I not been working with so many themes of like just death and looking what that looked like, I don't know that it would have been maybe as impactful. But I like that Lazarus couldn't die. Like I feel like that evened the playing field, so that was a bit special in that sense. And overall, the series as a whole, like absolutely loved it. I've been telling everyone how much I've really enjoyed it, and her writing was so impactful in the sense of like what we've been talking about of like pairing these horribly graphic, disgusting scenes with like such love and care and like humanity and like gentle, vulnerable moments that you get a good balance, I think.
Yeah, and she's got good humor mixed in there too.
Yeah,
like especially Famines was the most like humorous to me. Like I laughed out loud a couple times with that one. So,
yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Crazy stuff happened in that book.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess like looking on the series as a whole, I know you still said like Pestilence was your favorite. Was there any specific moments of like the whole series that you loved?
Oh my god. I really loved as much as I think War was probably my least favorite book, but just because I like to react when I'm reading to things.
Yeah.
So I liked when she walked into War's grave and he's surrounded by bombs.
Yeah.
And she just steps right in. And I was so mad. And I love to be angry. So yeah, that one just pissed me off. So I would say that part. And then again, most grossed out death, where she's impaled and birds are eating away at her body. Disgusting. And then Pestilence, when they kind of like, just in general, I guess, when they ultimately gave into each other, and then him learning how to be human.
Yeah.
Because the way they came together at the end, I liked the most, I think, out of all of them.
That's fair. Yeah, I think you definitely get different flavors with each interaction in terms of the women and the men. And I think kind of one of the overarching was the kind of the men becoming more gentle in a sense to the women.
Yeah.
And also, but the women, I think all of them were pretty like powerful in their own sense and had, you know, good boundaries, I guess. They're like,
yeah, no, I would agree. I think that oh my god, what is her name? Death. Holy shit, what? It's Death.
Oh, Lazarus?
Lazarus, holy fuck. That just went out of my brain. Lazarus, I think she was the most like, I think she was the most powerful to me, because she had a mental challenge she had to overcome, but also she was just a badass, like, physically too. So I think as far as women go, she's probably one of my favorites. Anna's second favorite, though, because she's fucking hilarious.
I think Anna was my favorite.
Yeah. Oh man.
Yeah, she was pretty great. Yeah. I would love some bonus content with like all of them growing old together or something.
Wait, I can't believe there hasn't been a Christmas novella or something.
I need them in Christmas sweaters. Instagram now has this like AI function thing. And I was trying to like, you can type in a little prompt and it'll give you like a few picture options. And I was trying to I was trying to find different like sentences to explain the Four Horsemen in Christmas sweaters, but it would give me like 2 men and then 2 horse heads.
Oh no.
And I was like, this is not what I want.
Damn, but I would have loved to see what they gave you though.
And I'll post that. I'll post that when I post like all this final stuff. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for this journey, the hours we've put into this.
Yeah.
And we'll have to see what we can do next, you know.
Maybe more of like a fantasy thing would be cool.
Yeah, that would be cool. That would be cool. Yeah. Too bad I didn't know you earlier. Whole Throne of Glass. That was a while.
Oh my god. And that was like early in my reading time where like everything was I reacted so strongly to. Like I read that whole series in 2 weeks. Yeah. I was just blowing through it.
That's fair.
I loved it.
Fair. I'm currently kind of rereading ACOTAR in the sense that I'm making the guy that I'm hanging out with read it.
Nice.
And getting his reactions to these books hilarious. She's like, man, she's such a woman. Like, she left the house because she was a little hungry. Like, she left her room. You know? Oh, anyways, we just got to the part where she just met. Well, he doesn't know it's where I stand, but at the fires, it's like, okay. Good times. Go back.
I love that.
Well, as always, thank you so much for joining me and actually coming down today. That's amazing. And if you want to tell everyone where they can find you.
Yeah. So again, Instagram, Gabby Gets Reading. No spaces, no caps, just GABBY.
All undercase.
Yeah. And that I just post on there, and yeah, that's it.
We would love to know if you've read the full series. What were your thoughts? Who was your favorite horseman? If you're on Spotify, you can actually vote, and I would love to see what was your favorite. And as well as if you think something would be up our alley to cover, please let us know as well. And we'd be happy to do so.
Absolutely.
All right. Perfect.
If you've made it to this point in the episode, thank you so much for watching. I'd be incredibly grateful if you showed some support either by following or subscribing, depending on what platform you're watching on, and leaving a comment. You can always follow me on Instagram at Busy Reading Romantasy or on TikTok at busy.reading.romantasy to see what I'm up to. You can also email me at busyreadingromantasy@gmail.com to tell me your thoughts, dreams, secrets, or if you just have any book and author suggestions you'd love me to cover. Grab yourself a good book, get cozy. I'll see you next Wednesday for a new episode.